What's up, people? My name is Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie. Started this channel to discuss all things Frank Zappa. I've almost done that completely. His latest release, Zappa Eerie, came out 4 days ago. I have lots and lots and lots of thoughts on that. In a couple days, I'm going to wait at least a week before I drop that video, but it is a fantastic release. We're going to return under the auspice of Frank Zappa's Big Note concept. We are going back to the Grateful Dead, and I'm going to rank and review all 36 of the Dick's Picks. From about 1993 to about 2005, the Grateful Dead had this archival release series called Dick's Picks. Dick Latvala, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, their sound man, their archivist. He sort of was the guy responsible for, I guess, choosing what was released. Started off as sort of a not complete shows. Like, oddly enough, I think like the first 4 releases are these weird hodgepodge, and then after that I think it's almost entirely complete shows, or sometimes 2 shows. I think there's one out of the 36 that were eventually released. I think there was 1 single disc, 3 double discs, a lot of 3 discs, and then even some 4 discs, and I think there was 1 6 discs, if I'm not mistaken, way at the end. I'd be confusing that with someone else. We'll get there eventually. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do them in groups of 6. They weren't released in groups of 6, but they have sort of a artistic, the conceptual artist. There's an art concept that ties 1 and 6 together, 7 and 12, 13 through 18. So I'm going to review them in groups of 6. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with 1 and 6, and I'm going to rank those from top to bottom. And then I'm going to do 7 to 12 and rank those as a group of 6. But when I'm done with that, at the end of the video, I will show where they fall in the total 12. And then, so as we go on, the list will get longer till finally we get to the last 6 and the list will be complete. So you get to see what things move and what things don't. I'm excited because though I have mocked up a list that I think is probably going to stay true, not going to change, I'm open to changing things up as I go through and revisit some of these things. But anyways, why I'm doing it in groups of 6 is, like I said, each group of 6 has its own like concept, artistically, or the packaging. The first 6 was this. Maybe I should close that for now. The first 6 was this, very simple. The second 6 had this flying carpet ticket stub motif going for each venue. The third 6, we went fractals. Each one had its own colorful fractal thing. The next group of 6, we had the lightning bolt with scenery in the background of some sort. This is Daly City, so we got the Golden Gate Bridge. The next 6, we went to some envelope mail-in type thing, brown packaging, very kind of old-fashioned rustic type thing. Nice little alligator stamp on that. I like that. And then the final 6, we went sort of a 2001 Space Odyssey, David Bowman's Final Journey type thing with weird stuff like that. So anyways, that's the concept that ties them together. I don't think there's any other concept in the groups of 6. So we're going to do the first 6 that all look like this. Tell you why first, none of the shows are bad. I don't think there's a show on here that I'm like, oh, that's a bad show. There are some I listen to less than others because of the era of the Dead it represents. But even like the show that I'm almost positive is going to be the last one on this list, it's not bad because it's a bad release. It's just this was an era that was not a favorite of mine for the Dead, so it's last. But yeah, I think all 36 of these releases are pretty good releases. And they, and especially in the early ones, even if on the whole, maybe they're good and not great, there are moments on each one that are simply great. So, yeah. But anyways, that's enough yapping. Let's start off with the first 6, and I'll tell you my thoughts on those and I'll rank them. All right. On to number 6, which is not number 6. Number 6 is number 1. Right? This is the first Dick's Picks release. It's a sampling of stuff from December 19th, 1973. This was their last complete show of 73. We're in the Bill Kreutzmann is the only drummer. Mickey Hart's not with the band at this point. It's a 2-disc set. It is a very odd sort of collection because the first set or the first disc is like a hodgepodge of material from both the first set and the second set, though not in order. So like it opens up with Here Comes Sunshine, which is, despite this being number 6, the Here Comes Sunshine, I'm going to nominate it for one of the, if not the single greatest tracks released in this entire Dick's Pick series. So yes, the entire release itself falls back to number 6 because I have to compare it to others. It is a performance or a collection of songs that kind of are laid back and a little too low key. Nothing wrong with them at all, but the energy is kind of like, instead of being like the last show for a while, like blow it out, get all your energy out before we take a break. It's one of those like, all right, let's do this one more time and just enjoy ourselves. And so it has kind of a low key laid back vibe, but the opening Here Comes Sunshine is one of the best things in the entire 36 releases. It is about 15 minutes long. It is just delicate and just kind of, a little bit fragile as Here Comes Sunshines are, but it has a jam that just kind of builds and then slowly just builds and then just kind of goes some more and you think they're about to wrap up and then it just kind of goes some more and it's just so nice and patient and just kind of, it's like Here Comes the Flood and they just keep like going and going and going until there's literally no more water to be added, so then they have to stop. It is a great way to start off a series. Like Dick's like, hey, I'm going to put one of the best things I'm ever going to release first. Here you go. And that's pretty much what he did. Other than that, as I was saying, the first disc is this weird mix of tracks from both the first set and the second set. Like Here Comes Sunshine is like late in the first set. It follows Big River, but on the CD, Big River follows it. I think you get a Mississippi Half Step, which is from the second set. Kind of I love Mississippi Half Step. This is one of the most laid back, lazy river-o. It's some lazy Mississippi Half Step action here, but it's good. Weather Report Suite, which is also from the second set. This has some really good energy in it, especially the Let It Grow jam. Kind of saves the whole thing and gives it some life. A Big Railroad Blues, which is from earlier in the first set than even Big River, Here Comes Sunshine. Excellent song. I could hear Big Railroad Blues all the time. And then a really good playing in the band to close out. 21 minutes long. It's kind of not like a kind of a pedal to the metal almost the entire time. It doesn't really slow down into a spacey section or get too far out there. Jerry's pretty much going the entire time. Kreutzmann is mixing up the groove behind him. It's a lot of really nice jazzy fills by God Shall throughout the whole thing. Really, really tasty, just really good 73 era, 74 era playing in the band. Probably the second highlight on this apart from the Here Comes Sunshine. And that's the first disc. And then the second disc, other than a bass solo of Phil's that was edited out of the other one, Jam, pretty much is the continuous series of songs that occurred in the second set. You get a He's Gone, a really just laid back He's Gone. This goes into a Truckin' that has a nice little jam at the end, into a Nobody's Fault But Mine with lyrics that actually is pretty good, kind of has a slow burning intensity to it, but again, it's a slow burning intensity. Pretty nice jam into a kind of a short little flirt with the other one, into another really, really nice jam, into a very good Stella Blue, and then an around and around closer. And so it's not a bad second disc in any way, shape, or form, but it definitely is just the Dead being really good at being the Dead. And I don't think there's anything that's too like, whoa, you got to hear this. A solid first entry, but out of the first 6, I would say it's my number 6. But I will say, and I'm going to come back to this after I do the 36, Here Comes Sunshine, that first opening track, is definitely a nominee for the top 10 single tracks out of this entire run. It is a phenomenal listen. And even if you don't want to get this disc, you need to check out the Here Comes Sunshine. All right, on to number 5. Number 5 is number 5. December 26, 1979, a Brent Midland era show. This is the first of their New Year's run. This is the complete show. It is all here. This is has one of my all-time favorite second sets that have been released. An almost perfect second set with just some really weird, excellent jams, some really weird left turns all of a sudden, but some really great moments. But why it falls back to number 5 is it's got an okay first set. It's a solid first set, some good song choices, but I don't think some of those song choices catch fire as maybe they normally would. Where I think the second set is almost perfect, but still the rest of these releases are so incredible that this falls to number 5. So the first set opens up with a Cold Rain and Snow. That's okay. A CC Rider, not one of my favorite songs that they do, and I think it works better later in a set when there's more energy. I think forcing it early doesn't work out. A Dire Wolf, Me and My Uncle Big River, Brown Eyed Women. I can always hear Brown Eyed Women. Love that. New Minglewood Blues. Friend of the Devil. I think Friend of the Devil actually brings some nice kind of consolidates some of this kind of energy that's a little all over the place and intensifies it and gives the show a little bit of focus. That goes into a nice Looks Like Rain. Then we get an Alabama Getaway into Promised Land as a closer, just a good rockin' closer. Nothing too special in that first set, but the second set, which comprises all of discs 2 and 3, is phenomenal. Opens up with an Uncle John's band. I think this is the first Uncle John's band they've done in since 77, in a couple years. Jerry is all about it. He is ready to go. He is soloing like crazy. That middle solo section between the first 2 and the 3 and 4 verses is fantastic. They go into the sort of that sort of towards the 2/3 of the end of the song jam. That jam sort of devolves and kind of doesn't go back into the song, but instead finds its way into an Estimated Prophet. The jam between Estimated Prophet and what follows is He's Gone. That jam is a little all over the place. There's some Love Supreme thrown in there. Phil Lesh playing some Love Supreme. There's a little hint of a Caution jam. They're just kind of shifting gears and kind of all over the place, kind of going back and forth between these two vibes. It is a great jam. That finds its way into a He's Gone. That kind of, it's a He's Gone, you know, but at the end of He's Gone, before it can sort of sort of evolve into some sort of delicate tinkering as He Gone frequently would, they just hit the other one. It's just like Phil does that bass run bomb and we're in the other one, pedal to the metal. We're just going just out of nowhere. It was like Bob was like, no more of this He's Gone stuff. We're up in the ante. And they hit the other one hard. That goes into a drums. Out of drums, there's a really nice jam out of drums that goes into a really good Not Fade Away. And that goes into a really nice Broke Down Palace. Very nice song choice there out of drums. But then we close with an Around and Around Johnny Be Good, which are solid songs, fun versions, nothing great. But then for the encore, we get a Shakedown Street. It's a really nice, funky Midland jam at the end with that funky keyboard sound that he's got going. And we somehow find our way back into the closing Uncle John's band riff so that we can end that song properly. Which is a nice little, I would have been happy if they didn't. They didn't need to, but the fact that they came back and put that nice little bow on it is a nice finishing touch. Pretty incredible second set. I think without a doubt the highlight of this, the Uncle John's band, Estimated Prophet, into that jam, and then He's Gone, but then that slam into the other one is also worth hearing. CD2 is, I think, the best part of this, but then the post-drum stuff is pretty good too. It's a pretty good show, just kind of an okay first set that I don't ever go back and listen to, which is why number 5 falls back to number 5. Number 4 is number 6, the most recent and release of the era of this group, and the most recent as it is a 1983 show, October 14th, my dad's birthday. Not the day he was born, literally. Not the year he was born, but the day he was born. But yeah, this is pretty much, it is a complete show. from October 14th, 1983. Again, we're in the Brent Midland era. And this show is pretty much exactly what you would expect from the Dead if you saw this set list, and they were performing really well. I think the first set is not as interesting as the second set, and the second set, despite having a set list that looks like just your standard stuff, is the Grateful Dead doing what they do very, very well with sort of a quote-unquote standard set list. 3 discs. First disc is the entirety of the first set. You get an Alabama Getaway, Greatest Story opener, which has a lot of really good energy. Jerry messes up the words, but it doesn't matter. The playing more than makes up for it. Very good energy. They Love Each Other continues that nice energy. We get a Mama Tried in a Big River, a nice Althea, always a good song to hear. Get another CC Rider. This is an example of how it definitely works better later in the set when Bob can take the energy that the set is giving him and kind of put it into that instead of forcing anything. I think this works better than the one on Volume 5. A Tennessee Jed. And then we close off with an early Hell in a Bucket, into a Keep Your Day Job. I think this was the first released version of Keep Your Day Job. A song that it's got some bad lyrics. It's pretty much just kind of a U.S. blues type set ending jam along or a deal type thing. Didn't stick around very long, but it's fun to hear. But again, a solid first set. Nothing spectacular, though I think the opening, Bam, Alabama Getaway, Greatest Story, They Love Each Other might be the best 3 songs in there, personally. And then CD2 is 4 songs, an hour of music. You get 30 minutes of Scarlet Fire. So the Scarlet is a really typical Scarlet. Do a nice typical Scarlet jam afterwards. I think that's about 13 minutes long, and then we get a nice ease into Fire, and then we get a nice, healthy, well-jammed 17-minute Fire. Excellent 30 minutes of music. It looks like Scarlet Fire on a set list, but it is why you listen to the Dead for moments like this. And then you get an Estimated Eyes, another 30 minutes. I think the estimated is 13 minutes. The Eyes is 17. And the first one, the Scarlet, was 14. The Fire was 16. So you get a pretty straightforward estimated profit, a really nice jam into Eyes of the World. But after Eyes, when they're done actually singing the verses and they go into that like sort of jam out territory as we make our way towards drums, that has some of the most interesting sort of, they get into this weird almost electronic rhythm jam that has this weird almost con energy to it. Really kind of weird, funky 70s type funky stuff in that jam as they work their way towards drums. But that closes out the second disc. And the third disc is drums. And then you have something called the Spinach Jam on here. It's 13 minutes on the CD. It's a Spanish jam, but it's about, you get drums, and then the Spinach Jam starts on the CD, but it's about 5 to 6 minutes of space. Then you get a legitimate Spanish jam in there, and then for maybe like 4 minutes, and then the rest of that is kind of them working their way towards the other one. You get a pretty decent other one, really nice high energy jam in the middle. That goes into a fantastic Stella Blue. Like Jerry just cannot wait to get to the vocals on this. He gets to them, and then the rest of the song just takes off from there. And then we close out with a Sugar Mag. It's a pretty good Sugar Mag. And then a U.S. Blues as an encore. Again, it's kind of like 5. Only I think the first set on this one is stronger than the first set on Volume 5. I think maybe the second set on Volume 5 has some higher highs. But from start to finish, this second set I think is just more consistently just like, it's what the Dead do, and they're doing it incredibly well on this. So yeah, number 4 is number 6, a show from '83. Number 3 is number 2. Pretty sure this is the only single disc release in the entire series. It is from Halloween 1971. It is the second set out of just 2 sets. It is the second set in its entirety, from what I understand. And it doesn't feel like a Halloween show. It feels like if you had given me this to listen to and said, this is from a holiday show, what holiday show do you think it's from? I would guess like maybe 4th of July, and it was an afternoon show and people were barbecuing, or you know, drinking a nice cold one, or maybe it's from like an Easter show and it's like in the afternoon and the temperature is like 75 degrees and people are wearing sun hats. The set list is, I think, incredible. But everything has this really positive, laid back, but happy, but not too laid back like volume one, just like the perfect amount of laid back type of energy. Definitely not Halloween energy. If it is Halloween energy, if I have to like acknowledge that it was performed on Halloween and thus is Halloween, it is like after we find out that Tommy killed his sister in Halloween, it's like the next 45 minutes to an hour of that movie where things seem normal, but you know they're not. Things are going to be weird, right? Or it's a Halloween, but it's a kid's Halloween, and there's like face painting and bobbing for apples. And this is going on in the background. Again, set 2 of the show opens up with a dark star, about a 22, 23-minute dark star. Very like melodic, happy, carefree, never gets too up, definitely never goes too spacey or too weird. There's a Tighten Up jam. There was a song in like the late 50s, early 60s called Tighten Up, and the Dead would jam on this, like this chord progression a couple times. So I think this is what they call the Tighten Up jam. But it just makes you feel good, and like you want to like, it's a good feeling jam. And then that goes off into some weird, just kind of exploratory weirdness after that. That finally makes its way into a Sugar Magnolia. Early on in Dark Star, like I think somewhere right before they go into the Tighten Up jam, I think you can hear Bob trying to play Sugar Mag, but Jerry like resists. They jam out for a while. Eventually we get a really good Sugar Mag, and then we get a Saint Stephen, Not Fade Away, really good Going Down the Road, Feeling Bad, back into Not Fade Away. Nothing outrageously spectacular about any of these versions, but they're all really good. They all have really choice little pockets of like the Going Down the Road before it goes back into Not Fade Away has some really nice little jam in there at the end of it. The Saint Stephen has an interesting little part in it where it just, you know, kind of jams out as it does, but before it goes back, before it gets into Not Fade Away, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, it's just a really good, well played, positive energy show. Like it's one of those, I think it's a really good sort of introduction into this era of the Dead, and that there's definitely nothing too aggressive. There's no layers of feedback. There's nothing too crazy, but at the same time, it's just really good feeling Grateful Dead. And like this Dark Star is one of my favorites. Just like little over 20 minutes, just makes you feel good, makes you want to like lay back in a hammock and enjoy the weather. Not here in Texas now, it's like 104 outside, but like somewhere where it's like in the 70s. I love this vibe. Not a Halloween vibe, not a spooky Halloween vibe, an outdoor fall weather, feeling good, just a really good feeling show. Set, single disc. Yeah, number 3, number 2. Number 2 is number 4. Something I think a lot of people might have as number 1, not only in this group of 6, but maybe through a larger group. But this is a fantastic release. It is from 2 shows, February 14th and February 13th, February 13th and February 14th, 1970. These are Fillmore East. These are the same shows from which Bear culled the material for Bear's Choice, History of the Grateful Dead. This is a 3-disc set, the first of the 3-disc sets. I think after this, almost everything would be 3 discs, if not 4 discs. I think there are 2 discs left still. No more 1 discs. But it's an interesting selection. It's a bunch of stuff from the 13th, and then a bunch of stuff from the 14th with the entire 3rd set of the 13th. And the entire 3rd set of the 13th is 90 minutes long and consists of 3 songs. You get a 30-minute Dark Star, a 30-minute That's It for the Other One, and a 30-minute Love Light. Just absolutely ridiculous. The Dark Star is a kind of a confused Dark Star. It's a little all over the map. You have like spacey exploration. You have like deep, like percussive, percussion driven, like deep space stuff. You have just some straight up jamming. You have a Feeling Groovy jam thrown in there, the 59th Street Bridge song from Simon and Garfunkel. They would jam on that quite often. You're kind of all over the map on where this Dark Star goes. And I think that makes it interesting, but I think it ultimately prevents it, in my ears, as being one of the all-time great Dark Stars. But it's definitely not a boring journey at any point. That's It for the Other One. It's kind of like 2 or 3 songs. You get an opening, That's It for the Other One. You get the opening, the dun 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 ba bum ba that Jerry sings, and then you get like a whole drum solo or drum duet. Then you slam into the other one. We get the more traditional dun 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 dun. That goes on for a totally long time. Then when you finally go back into the dun 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 dun, That's It for the Other One part. That has a really nice jam when Jerry's done with the vocals, that they just kind of toy around with that progression for a while before that eventually finds its way into Love Light. 30-minute Love Light is a lot. There's a lot of Pigpen going on there, but it's almost as if they don't just want to stop playing and they like jam, and then Pigpen goes on a riff, and then they jam some more, and then Pigpen goes on a riff, and then they jam some more. So there's a lot of little interesting pockets of different kind of jams that go on throughout this whole thing. Pretty fantastic listen. And it really, how much Pigpen you can tolerate kind of determines your love for Love Light, I would say. But that is essentially the end of disc 1, all of disc 2. All of disc 2 is just Other One and Love Light. But then the stuff that you get from the 14th, you get a really nice Casey Jones to open up the entire thing. That was the opener on the 14th. You get a Dancing in the Streets with a great jam, phenomenal jam in it. For a song I do not like, except for maybe the original, the jams in these are always good. Really nice China Rider, goes into a really nice High Time, and then a Dire Wolf, which is a song I've never been that hot on. And then side 3 is a really good Alligator, into even more drums, into a Me and My Uncle, into a pretty nice Not Fade Away, that has some really, really just kind of pedal to the metal jamming in it the entire time. Hits pretty heavy. That goes into Mason's Children. I think this was the first ever released version of Mason's Children. And then that goes into a Caution with a really nice feedback. I think the feedback is about 10 minutes long, but it's a really nice feedback. About an 8.5 minute feedback. And then we get And We Bid You Good Night. Good night. Good night. I want to say there might be a We Bid You Good Night jam in Not Fade Away also. That's pretty good. But anyways, it's a solid, spectacular, like S-tier release. The only reason it's not number 1 is because I really, really like the one that I have ranked as number 1. And that's literally the only reason. But anyways, yeah, just a phenomenal release. The sound is not as good on this as it is on some of the other ones, especially when they really, really get jamming. Jerry and Bob's guitar can have some piercing. The high ends can be a little 1970 sounding, piercing to the ears every so often. But for the most part, if you're a Dead fan, you're used to much worse sound than that, I would say. But yeah, an incredible release that will probably stay near the top, despite the fact that it's number 2 already. Number 2 is number 4, 213, 214, 1970. And number 1 out of the top 6, or the first 6 that were released, is number 3. This is a 77 show. It's a May 77 show. Do I need to say anything else? What is the exact date? Like late in May. May 22nd, 1977. Yeah, the Dead were like in peak form right here. It is not, sadly, a complete show. This is a 2-disc set, and it's a handful of tracks from the first set, almost the entirety of the second set. And it's just, other than 2 song choices, which I wish maybe they had picked something else instead of these, I have no complaints. It has probably one of the best segue transitions ever. It has a Morning Dew that you can like put up there with you can put it up there with Barton Hall. It's ultimately not gonna it can't be Barton Hall, but it's up there. It's up there in that pinnacle of all-time great Morning Dews. So what do you get here? Opens up with some little funicula, whatever, tuning of that little like ditty. That goes into The Music Never Stop. The Music Never Stop as an opener, one of the greatest things ever. This is a really good, upbeat, jammed out version. That goes into a sugary to just end all sugaries. Just one of those. Between every verses, it's jammed out a really nice long jam towards the end where they do that sliding thing where Jerry just takes his time. We're talking this thing clocks in at like well over 15 minutes. Yeah, it's like almost 16 minutes long. A sugary to just end all sugaries. Then we get a lazy lightning supplication. I think this was towards the end of the first set. Really nice lazy, not lightning, nice supplication. And then we get a Dancing in the Streets. It was the closing song of the first set. It's kind of like towards the last second thirds of the first CD. And again, not a great fan of this song, especially the 77 disco version. But man, is that jam good. That jam is so good that I actually want to go back and listen to I don't like this disco version of the song, but that jam is incredible. This is a 15-minute version of Dancing in the Street, and it's because of the jam. It is so incredibly well jammed out. So that was the end of the first set in real time, but on the CD there were 3 more songs that were opening the second set, and that is a Help, Slip, Franklin's. Help on the Way, into Slipknot, into Franklin's Tower. The whole thing runs like over 25 minutes long. The Franklin's Tower is incredibly well jammed out. Help sounds perfect. Slip sounds perfect. Yeah, just perfect songs, great performances. The energy is incredible. The band sounds fantastic. The second disc continues on with the second set. We get a Samson and Delilah, which I am more of a fan of Samson in its early sort of incarnations than I am later on in like the 80s and 90s. I think these versions just are a little more muscular, a little more enjoyable. So not a bad opener on the second disc. There was a Brown Eyed Women in the set, which they cut. There was the Good Lovin', which I'm glad they cut. I kind of wish they'd put Brown Eyed Women in, but they put Sunrise in instead. So you get a live version of Sunrise. It still contains possibly, arguably, most definitely the worst lyric ever written, at least in a Dead song. Listen to the song. You will know that line when it happens. But again, nice little tasty guitar solo in there. And then it just ends. The rest of the disc is just, you get an Estimated Prophet, Eyes of the World, into Wharf Rat, into not Terrapin Station, but the Inspiration. So when you realize that Wharf Rat is like jamming at the end and they're gonna go into something else, like you can feel like this like they're building into Terrapin, but they're not going into that opening chorded, the lady with the fan thing. They're going into Inspiration, and they hit it perfectly. And it's like Inspiration, one of the most inspired segues ever. And the fact that the rest of the song just hits super hard makes it even better. And then after that Terrapin Station, and you get the nice little jam at the end, they go into Morning Dew, and just another perfect 77 version of Morning Dew, where just every note is perfect, the guitar solo at the end is perfect, the band's accompaniment, just that power that they gather behind Jerry as that ends, is it almost like, waiting for that nuclear bomb to drop and destroy it and lay waste to everything, because it doesn't matter anyway. Just doesn't matter anyway. Yeah, it's amazing. Great end to just a perfect 2 discs. There's nothing wasted on here. There's no fat, just nothing but just hit it out of the ballpark numbers. My number 1 out of the original 6, and discs I listen to a lot. So it's going to stay near the top. It's going to be hard to dislodge this, but it will get dislodged eventually, people. No, it might not. I'm going to edit that part out. But anyways, I'm going to leave it in because I don't know what's going to happen. But anyways, my number 1 out of the top 6, number 3. That is it for the Dick's Picks, the first 6. That was my ranking. Number 1, number 6, then 5. I have to try to remember this. Then 6, then 2, then 4. Number 3 is my favorite. Yeah, only 2 discs, but it's a 77 show, people, right? 77. So anyways, let me know where I'm wrong, why my opinion is bad, why you disagree, why you agree, what you like, what I should go back and listen to so I can reevaluate and reappreciate. But all of these are good. It's just, this is how often, pretty much how often I listen to them is how I'm determining this. Anyways, that's it. Comment, like, subscribe, all that stuff. And we'll do the next 6 in a couple days. And I also will have thoughts on Zappa's incredible latest release in a couple days. Peace, y'all. Stay cool and stay out of the heat. Because it's like 104 here in Texas. It sucks, people. All right, bye.